Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the official Trackmania channel for the 8th and final step of the Trackmania Grand League Challenger Fall 2021 regular season. The step is about to start in 15 minutes time. You'll get to see all the action here live on the official Trackmania channel. Hello everybody, I'm Thomas Mengozi, aka GGeek, glad to be your host once again for Trackmania Grand League Challenger, and this week alongside me is none other than Thunder. How you doing?
I am fantastic, GGeek. So happy to be here on the Trackmania channel. Get to see the final step of action here unfold with the final 5 maps, and I'm really curious to see how this mid-pack fights with one another to secure those top 8 spots. There's a lot of points at the top of the leaderboard, but that mid-group really close, and I'm curious to see who steps up and takes those spots.
Indeed. We'll get to talk about that in just a second, but for those for the wider Trackmania community in general, you might not be well known. Can you maybe introduce yourself and tell the community what you're all about?
Absolutely. I have been casting for about a year and a half, maybe a little bit more than that now. I come more from the Rocket League side of things, and there's actually, as I've discovered, quite a bit of an overlap between those two communities sometimes. And been playing Trackmania, this current iteration of the game, since launch, and I streamed the game for quite a while as well on my personal Twitch channel. Got lucky with raids from the likes of Arizal and Mutta and folks like that, so I kind of got embroiled into the community, and I've had a blast. This is one of the most welcoming communities I've ever encountered in gaming, and I'm just super happy to be here.
I mean, having Arizal and Mutta radio, I mean, that's a pretty strong endorsement that you're welcome in the community. I mean, that's really awesome to hear. But yeah, now to get down to business. Quick recap of what happened last week, of course. Another victory for mine. 4th step win of the season for the Polish driver from Exaltitaro. 67 points scored in the first 4 races, coupled with a ×4 multiplier on a map that he wasn't feeling confident on, Throttling Act, allowing him to score 268 points, finishing in the lead. Second place for Otak, who scored 40 points in the first 4 races, and then scored the 8th and final round win on Throttling Act. Sorry, that's getting that's really rolls right off the tongue, doesn't it? But yeah, the ×5 multiplier for Otak, allowing him to score 200 points, and Miquatro completes the podium, 67 points, just like Mime scored on the first 4 races, but Miquatro won a level 2 multiplier, allowing him to double his score to 134 points. Now, let's take a look at the standings after the 7th step of the season. With this final step left to go, Mime has currently consolidated his advantage at the top of the leaderboard with 1747, Otak second with 1575, Evon third with 878, and then you can see from 4th through 6th, we still have a pretty good battle within 100 points to find Hydra, Wasile, and Energize, and then the battle for the final few spots in the Trackmania Grand League Challenger Finals. Those being Miquatro, Link, Dofalt, Solja, Cap, and Razi in that order. Snow currently sitting in P13, Nixonica, Fegli, and Revolution from 14th through 16th. Nixonica still with a theoretical chance of getting up to that TMGLC versus TMGLO fight, that butter zone of 9th through 13th. And yeah, otherwise, yeah, that battle for the final places in the finals is definitely hotting up nicely.
Absolutely, and I think it's really interesting to look at the point spread when you go individual step by step. And I take a glance down at about 8th place and what kind of point total they're earning. It looks like it's somewhere around the 75 to 100 point range. That's what the 8th place driver is getting. So if you take that as a baseline, that's around what you can assume the increase will be for Link in 8th place, probably ending up at, 650 to maybe 675 points. That's the benchmark that the drivers below need to be above. So there are drivers in that mix that can really make a statement here. If they can earn enough points to put themselves over that threshold, you could easily see them jumping 2, 3, even 4 places and getting a spot in the top 8 for the finals.
Yeah, indeed. And yeah, that's also a bit of a battle for the top 3, which is still very much on. There's less than 100 points between Evon and Hydra, and it's of course very important because there is a little bit of cash prize on the way at the end of this step of the season. The top 3 will get cash prize, 1,000 euros for the overall winner. Second place will get 500 and 200 place for 3rd place. Currently it's Evon sitting on that 3rd place, but he's barely ahead, well, I say barely, 93 points ahead of Hydra, but Hydra I don't think is going to give up without a fight here. The player from Multipliers Talent Player Esport is going to seek to make it at least a 2-3 for France here in this season.
Yeah, and I think another thing that's especially interesting about this particular step is the addition of the 2x Icy Snake, because that identity on that map is very execution heavy. We've seen it with maps like Vertigo in the past where the separation between drivers is pretty big. So that's why I think you could also see positions jump a lot at the end of this step. And there might be spots stolen both in that sort of 6 to 12 range that we talked about, but maybe even at the top there, like you were saying with Mosile, Hydra, Evon, those spots could flip around if drivers make crucial mistakes in the 2x round.
Yeah, indeed. Now, we were mentioning briefly the maps such as Icy Snake. Let's take a look at the map pack for this final step of the season. Your opening race will be taking place on Launchpad from Ubisoft.io, followed by Bolt Holes from Rocket. Kisla's Grasshopper will then be host to race number 3. Then first 6-lapper, only 6-lap use actually, for Throttling Act by Banano. I'm pretty curious to see how that pans up now as well. And of course, Icy Snake, the brand new map from Rocket, as the multiplier stage for this week. And as I say, on Throttling Act, I'm kind of curious to see how players will actually fare, given that on the I actually had heard wins that some players think that this might be more wielding gaps that were more similar to Vertigo over the course of the 6-lapper, but I don't really think so, because compared to Vertigo, the identity of Throttling Out is at least predictable and somewhat consistent. At least that's the way I view it. Whereas Vertigo was a bit more of a casino, especially that final pipe with the reactor boost. So yeah, I'm predicting we're more gonna see gaps on the level of Bolt Holes, where the identity is very much a punishing one, but but you can actually consistently get it compared to Vertigo, where it's a bit more hazy depending on how you approach the pipes.
Yeah, the term casino not far off in terms of how Vertigo was almost a circus, as I might call it, the way that map was sometimes. But I think you're right with Throttling Act, where safing it on the identity, I think, can give you the consistency where you're not going to fall off of the girders. Whereas Vertigo, it felt at sometimes like there was no safe route and you were just going to fall off unless you were driving pixel perfect on that map. So I think you're right on that one. And again, I'm curious about execution on Icy Snake and what drivers are going to come out ahead there. We know ice can be a big characterizing feature in TMGL. In seasons past, there were players who jumped ahead in positions and in competitions because they were strong on ice maps. So that could easily happen again here with that new surface.
Yeah, it's definitely like a target for those that feel more comfortable on frozen water, as I like to call it, alternatively. But yeah, those players who are more comfortable on ice can definitely take advantage of this identity here on Icy Snake to really to actually really take themselves and stand out from the crowd. I was going to try to do a literal translation of a French expression, but yeah, I quickly backed out of that. I was going to say tirer leur épingle du jeu, which is basically make the best of the situation and try to get up ahead of the rest of the field. Either way, we're currently moving onto the game scene. You can see everybody getting some warm-up done here on Throttling Act as we speak. Of course, the final 6-lapper of today's step. After that, we'll be jumping onto a bit of a warm-up session on Icy Snake. You guys will get to get a sneak peek of what it might be like to run on this map for those players. But yeah, let's take a look at some of the players. Of course, the current championship leader, Mime, 17th, here on the top of the standings at the final step of the season. And you can see the trigram every day, every single week. He goes with a different trigram, and yeah, he decided to go with the funny number for the multiplier there on this trigram. But yeah, the player from XLT Taro coming in with a pretty strong 200, almost 200 point lead, and might be poised to take the win of the season. But of course, there is another man sitting in this track, that is Otak from Lille Esport. The youngster is doing pretty well for himself, having taken 2 step wins this season, and having proven to be a bit of a showman in the midfield, and also having proven to be a pretty good well, I say entertainer, but yeah, pretty good showman when it comes to the multiplier rounds as well.
Absolutely, and it would take, as you talk about Mime and Otak, those top 2, it would take a pretty serious meltdown on Mime's part for Otak to take over that top spot. I would say the spread between them getting towards 200 points. So Mime would have to finish near the bottom of the leaderboard, and Otak also securing a pretty big multiplier to completely pass them. I think Mime's going to be feeling pretty comfortable on this last step that they might be securing their 5th step win out of 8, which is an unbelievable performance.
That is,
but that's not going to stop OTAC from racing here for sure.
Yeah, no, not at all. But yeah, that would be an impressive track record. It's already an impressive track record that half of the steps have been won by Mime this season, just proving the sheer dominance. Mime. Speaking of him, we're currently sitting on Icy Snake in the pre-game warm-up. Just to give you a little bit of a hint on the 2 lapper times, currently Mime is the fastest TMGLC player to have logged the time on the Trackmania.io leaderboards, a 2:16.297. Just 7/10 away from the world record being held, of course, by Mutta from TMGL, at 2:15.664, the ultimate time on that leaderboard. So yeah, Mime is pretty well prepared. Next, the closest guy that actually has a time relatively close to him is Evon with a 2:16.5, just 2/10 down on Mime's time.
Well, they must have a lot of ice in Poland, I guess. GGeek, they're used to driving on that kind of surface because they sure seem good at it.
Well, to be fair, I don't really think it's characteristic. I would be more inclined to think that people like Big Quattro, given that they live in the Nordic nature, might be more prone with ice. But yeah, that's a different topic altogether. But yeah, we're gonna be moving on to the identity here from the perspective of Big Quattro. Sorry about that little blip in the concentration there. But yeah, you can see the ice line with the angle being put in by OTAC there, and then use that bank slope part to actually put the rotation to the right hand side for the second U-turn and then final U-turn. Make sure to be really close to the edge of the hole. Make sure not to clip it as well, because otherwise it's just going to be grabbing the front end and fling you over to the other side of the map, and you're going to be falling off and be forced to respawn and lose several seconds. But yeah, this identity is definitely going to be separating the good drivers from the great drivers here.
No kidding, and I think you're going to see very close races on the rest of this track. There aren't that many other sections in this track that are very execution heavy. There are these dirt, like the long sweeping dirt corners, where you might see a bit of a spread start to open up between cars, but for the most part, it's really going to come down to that identity that is going to split one driver from the next, and that's going to be the make or break for a lot of people on this one.
Yeah, I can't wait to see how. I can't wait to see the bigger multiplier rounds, the level 3 and up multiplier rounds that we're gonna get. I'm assuming some of the bigger players, depending on their point score, are just gonna be deleting straight away on the level 2 rounds, considering that it might not really be worth actually taking the flag for an easy finish, but it might be feeling confident about their chances of getting a multiplier with that identity, that they're going to be trying to go for a bit of bravado here and go for the bigger multipliers. And to be fair, I'm expecting a lot of players to actually go that route amongst the top contenders. So yeah, this will make for some pretty interesting racing towards the end.
And I think what's great too is that we're being set up by the 6-lapper on Throttling Act, which, as you said, that might come down to consistency and execution as well, where we could see a shake-up in the standings because of the identity on that track. And I'm very curious to see how that sets up the final step, because of course, so much of the multiplier round is dictated by the point totals that the players have coming into that, and whether they want to take a risk to multiply the total they have, or to wait for the huge 4 and 5x at the end and really send it. So it'll be curious. It'll be very interesting as well to watch Throttling Act and see where we end up coming into Icy Snake.
Yeah, of course, we talk about map 5, but of course the first 4 maps are very, very important. Getting a good momentum going with a good, decent amount of points scored in the first 4 maps is definitely going to be helping your chances of getting further high up the leaderboard than what you would potentially plan with bigger multipliers. In either case, we're getting underway with the final step of the season, and we're going to be going straight back to race number 1, which is going to be held on Launchpad by Ubisoft Nadeo, introduced as step number 4. So this is going to be its 5th use. It's going to be sticking with us for the second half of the season, pretty much. And yeah, also a bit of a nice part there midway through the track that can be a bit tricky to navigate around. The approach to it can be a little bit awkward. And of course, the identity, the reactor boost flight through 2 ring CPs. Make sure you do not clip a ring CP mid-flight like you see here, managing to make it through perfectly, and then go through the final reactor boost ring to get then a zoop at the landing on the plastic part to come across the line. But yeah, as I said, do not clip a ring CP when you actually go for that flight, because otherwise if you clip a ring CP and actually cross the ring CP as a result, then you're going to be forced to double respawn and lose the best part of 5 to 6 seconds, even 7 seconds in worst cases.
Yeah, those mistakes on the identity on this track can truly be fatal for a run. There are maybe potential on a few of the tracks in the map pack we've seen so far this season where you have the capacity to save yourself and salvage a run, especially on a 6-lapper. But Launchpad, it can be really tough to save that because of the CP resetting that you have to do and sending yourself back so far. So it's crucial here, more than on most maps, that execution has to be perfect on that identity.
Yeah, we're about to get up to that identity now. We're past the second plastic part on board with Hydra. He's got Evan Snow and Wasal right up ahead of him in the end of the warm-up. 30 seconds remaining before we start the race. Let's actually get with Hydra to see how he crosses through. So he makes it through the middle and then goes for a really shallow exit. And this is exactly what you want to avoid. Hydra being a bit of a case in point there. Same for Evan. Clipping the second CP, second ring CP. Evan managing to do it again. And yeah, that's double respawn that you have to do is going to cost you big time, because a single respawn just gets you back to the ring CP that you just crossed, and the static respawn is definitely not working on the ring CPs. That's always been that way. So yeah, identity definitely pivotal to actually get a good 6-snapper going. And yeah, I guess that covers pretty much everything you have to look out for on Launchpad. The race is underway, ladies and gentlemen. We had a bit of a late start from one of the players. I hope he's going to be able to get away from the starting line, and we're going to be following along with Cap from Team Oplon for the opening lap, shall we?
We shall indeed. On board with Cap.
Apparently there was a technical issue. That's what I was expecting. Suspecting. Yeah, non-native English speaker struggles pronouncing words, but yeah, that it's been a long time since we got debated. Since we got debated with the round start. But yeah, apparently there was an issue for someone. I couldn't exactly see who it was. I think I'm seeing Exotica trying to get a bit of a run through. Oh yeah, that's a bit of a struggle there for myself as well. Really sorry about the drop frames, by the way. We're having a bit of a difficult situation networking-wise. I hope everything's going to be holding together, though. So, yeah, we had a bit of an issue from one of the players. We're just going to be waiting for the go-ahead to be given.
Yeah, and as we wait, the anticipation grows. It's funny. I saw orange at the top of the screen, and I thought I fell victim to the classic casting the warm-up curse. I was about to do that, but I noticed that it was actually just a technical restart from the admins in the background. And yeah, I'm not sure exactly what player was having issues with that one. As you said, we had a late joiner, somebody who came in at the last moment with very little warm-up for themselves.
Apparently, we have a problem with Dofault. Dofault is no longer on the server, so we're gonna have to wait for the Belgian from BS Plus competition to rejoin the server, and he's one of those that's actually in that battle for the final few spots in the TMGLC final as well. So that would be a very bad time for him to have technical issues plague his run. So yeah, luckily that's a technical issue happened in the warm-up. So there was going to be a restart because of that particular shenanigan. And yeah, he still gets the chance to do the full races and score the points there.
Well, that's good. I mean, yeah, as you said, for a player that's in that mid-pack and right on the cusp of getting themselves into the top 8, that would be really the most unfortunate circumstances to drop down. You never wish that upon even your worst enemy, to have technical issues in a competition like this. So hopefully things can right themselves for Dofault and we can get back into the competition soon, because that's what we want to see today. Just a clean competition between everybody, and I really want to see it go down to the wire. I think it can too, where we could get down to the late stages and have it be really close.
Yeah, we're just going to be waiting for a few words on the potential arrival of Dofault at the moment. But yeah, I mean, we don't really have anything else to say at this point. Oh, Dofault just came back onto the server. Let's hope that he's able to get a bit of a shakedown to actually see if he's able to move. I'm wondering if he's going to be giving the all good to the admins. We don't really see we can't see what the players are typing here, so we're kind of in the dark when it comes to situations like this where there are technical restarts. So yeah, we're just going to be waiting for the official restart being given by an admin. It seems like we have apparently solved the issue for Dofault. Let's hope that he doesn't stick at the start. And oh, he's still sticking at the start. So yeah, apparently issues are still persisting for Dofault, unfortunately. So we're going to go for another round skip and giving Dofault the time to suss out his issues.
That's really tough. It's so hard to because you can only speculate about what is happening in the background for those players, and technically it seems like it's been pretty consistent for almost all players throughout the season. So it's a shame to see things crop up like this, but you can only hope that they get solved as quickly as possible. Like I said, this is the nightmare scenario really in esports. You do not want to arrive on competition day and have things go wrong that you just feel are out of your control.
Yeah, exactly. And especially it can have, it not only has it does have an impact on how you perform, and it impacts also how you're feeling about the step, because having those technical problems right at the start of a really important play day or a really important phase of your tournament, it definitely is going to be taking your morale, and you're going to have this in the back of your head for the rest of your potential play day. So yeah, it's definitely the worst thing that can happen for Default, as we're getting another resume of the match here. Is Default moving off the start line? No, it's still looking pretty bad for Default. Unfortunately, I don't know if there's going to be a retirement from Default at this stage, or if there's still going to be another restart. But it seems like everybody has managed to get on the way, aside from Default. Oh, Default is actually moving, but he's definitely experiencing issues. Apparently that might be a rip for Default here on race number 1. Meanwhile, towards the front, it's Mime at the ice part, taking the lead over Evon with, it seems like Soldier, then Nixaltica and Fegli in 3rd, 4th, and 5th, with Wasal currently sitting in P8. We had a big mistake from Soldier at the exit of that ice part down to the reactor boost, and he's going to be dropping down to P15. Meanwhile, Mime and Evon 1 and 2, with Evon retaking the lead ahead of Mime, and Otak sitting in 3rd place.
Yeah, that race very close at the front. It's the top 3. Otak, Evon and Mime all just knotted up there as we head into the identity. We'll see how the execution goes for the players here. Oh, we had some clips on the rings there, and I think it's Evon who has come out way in front as Energize has slotted up into 2nd place. And what a shake-up there. The first time through the identity already we've seen places shuffling as the execution just did not come through.
Yeah, indeed. The unfortunate victims of that were Mime, Fegli, and Otak. Fegli looked like he might have been able to save it, because the hit did not actually really seem that big, but unfortunately he was forced to respawn as well. Same for Otak. They're finding themselves in 12th, 13th, and 14th, promoting a couple of players into the top 8 standings, with Mi4 Cap and Razi and Nixaltica currently battling it out, and Link having lost a lot of grip midway through the ice part, so he's going to be dropping down to P11 as Soldier overtakes him before the reactor boost part. Bad reactor boost part as well from Link is going to be demoting him down further in 11th position. In the meantime, Evon leading ahead of Wosile, and Energize have completely shaken up top 8. Snow moving up into P4 with B4 and P5 as we're moving on to the identity for the 2nd time. Evon having a buffer of around 0.3 of a second compared to both Wosile and Energize. First ring managed to clear for Energize, same for Wosile and for Evon. So far, it's still the Polish driver, but Energize did not get the landing and did not get through the reactor boost ring, so he's going to be dropping down to P8 and even P9 as Mime completely scoots through. And now Mime on the damage limitation mission is back into the top 8 thanks to the trials and tribulations of Energize. Razi getting promoted up into the top 3, and Nixonica up into the top 5 as well.
A really interesting shake-up again, and 2 out of 2 laps we saw Evon with amazing execution on that identity, and they've really got themselves, I would say, a comfortable lead of almost a second here over Wosile in 2nd place. And that top 5 there, rounded out with Nixotica, relatively close, but there's some separation between each of them. And let's take a look here with Nix going through the reactor boost down section over the grass. As we head into this plastic section, they're a little bit still far behind Cap, Razi, and Hydro, Wosile, and Avon up in front there. Also, a lot of separation between them as well. Avon has just been crushing it so far on this map. They're the first to head into the identity here. And oh, it looks scary for a moment as the margins razor thin, but again, getting that reactor down ring and a clean finish gets them a 3rd great lap here and a best lap as well.
Yeah, 104.103 for Evon here, currently the fastest lap of the race, and a bit of a mistake from Mime, who actually went down from top 8 to top 12 after a bit of a shaky landing at the identity. Otak, now one of the early victims, is back up into the top 8 as well. So yeah, we see positions changing all the time with all of the crossings of the identity that are currently ongoing, as we are not the only ones that are experiencing connection issues. I'm not the only one that's experiencing connection issue. Again, really sorry about that. But yeah, Nix currently sitting in P6, not too far away from Cap. There could be some juicy points there for the taking. There are 17 points for P6, 18 for P5, 19 for P4 if they're able to capture Tarazi, but that's a bit of a really remote target. He's already a second ahead of Cap into lap number 4. Meanwhile, Evon completely out there and in firm command of the race, 1.5 seconds ahead of Vocile, managing to make it 4 out of 6 so far in the identity and going really close on the outside, but managing to make it through into lap 5 in the lead. Still a 1.6 second gap. Otak moving up into P7 with the mistake from Miquatro and Nyx as well, dropping down to P9 and P10, battling for P9 with Nyxotica. Otak fastest lap for him with a 103.940.
And look at the interesting race going on here between 6th and 5th place. This is Cap and Solja battling with one another. And Solja was one of those players we mentioned in that midfield that could be poised to grab themselves a top 8 spot. Heading into the ice section, very little separating those two players. Cap and Solja still battling away here as we head off of the ice, down the jump, and into this hard left corner. They're staying close with one another, staying within about a tenth, maybe 2/10 going into the grass section. But as we see every lap, we're going to approach the identity before too long here, and we're going to see who gets the better of that execution. Through the plastic we go now, transitioning onto the tarmac, that right-hander drift into this slower, interesting section here. A lot of control needed to get through there, and into the identity we go. Where's this battle going to shake up? Cap sending it on speed. Solja a little bit farther behind, goes lower line and gets themselves out in front. And it looks like Solja might win that battle going into this 6th and final lap. Yeah, well, there's still 1 lap left to go, and Solja currently having a buffer of 3 to 4/10 of a second compared to Cap. Let's see if the we're gonna have to wait and see if the Frenchman from Team Upline is able to retake that 3rd place. In the meantime, Evon 2 full seconds ahead of Vocile. Hydra further second down. This is definitely a superb performance from Evon, who is currently just missing the fastest lap, which is currently courtesy of Miquatro with a 103.940. Solja still continuing to extend his lead over Cap to around 4/10 of a second through the reactor boost part. Not a big speed advantage for Cap at the exit of that reactor boost part onto the second plastic. It looks as though Evon is going to have this in the bag. Maybe a bit of a closing of a gap between Hydra and Vocile, but Evon, final crossing of the identity, 1st ring cleared, 2nd ring cleared as well. Now he's going to be able to cross the line safely and win the race ahead of Vocile, Hydra, and Razi. Cap and Solja battling it out for the Pop 5. Oh, and unfortunately Cap, who tried to send it towards the line, he's going to lose P6 to Snow with that full stop. Solja, Snow, and Cap 5th, 6th, and 7th, with Otak finishing in the top 8. Miquatro, Mime, Nyxotica, Energized, Link, and Revo complete the finishers, as unfortunately Figley has been stuck with a connection issue, and Default retired at the start of the race due to his issues as well. So yeah, that marks the end of this first race with 2 retirements, that of Figley and Default. Wow on that ending with Cap in particular. I think that was the story of the final lap. At the very end, bonks the CP before the finish, and Snow snipes them for 6th place at the finish line, earning themselves an extra point. That was dangerously close there. Unfortunate for Cap in a big way, but Snow being lower, far lower in the leaderboards right now, at least as it compares to the top 8. Those individual little wins that you can get, if you can rack up a few of those along the way here and get a good multiplier at the end, I tell you, it can make a huge difference. So sniping at the finish line there, it shows a lot of composure under pressure.
Yeah, indeed. Moving on to our second race for the day, map number 2, which is of course none other than Bolt Holes from Rocket. Rocket's first foray into mapping into TMGL yielded a very, very nicely integrated map, arguably one of my favorites overall in the season, with an identity that had a simple theory, but that was deceptively difficult in its execution, given the precise requirement of the entry jump. One single misalignment or a single kph too much speed, and you will be at the risk of bunking the very first pass through the holes, and that could completely wreck your momentum. That was very, very true in the 2-lapper, and it's even more true in the 6-lapper, with that identity proving to be very, very punishing.
Absolutely, not to mention the fact that we've gotten to see some pretty hilarious plastic bounces off of that identity on occasions, as well, as players go flying through and don't necessarily take the speed hit that you would expect if they end up bonking the identity. But I think another spot to point on this map is the drift line, that really low speed drift after the CP, where they go on the inside of that hole, the pool in the ground. That's a spot that can mark a lot of differences between drivers, because that's a pretty execution heavy spot. on a part of the map that's not the identity. So that's a spot to watch out for as well on both holes, where you might see some separation between players who miss that drift or who don't quite get the right line.
Yeah, exactly. That's a really good that you actually point out that section before the reactive boost block. And yeah, the fastest line here is to go around the inside, trying to perform a neo drift as you land from the transfer. But as you can see, it's very easy to mess up the alignment, and you run the risk of either clipping the left side or the right side, and neither are good. They're just going to be completely sapping your momentum, and you're going to be losing a lot of positions if you make a mistake where everyone is able to actually managing to pull it off. That neo slide perfectly well. Moving on to the start of the second race, we're already underway in hole shot from Exotica with a 6.682. We're going to be following along with the RBG Esports player from Michigan right now.
Well, let's take it away with lap number 1 here on board with Nix as we go into this left-hander drift into the downhill. Crucial to maintain speed there so you get a lot of distance off of this jump, taking the inside line, heading towards the quarter pipe jump. Again, you got to keep this jump flat and low, and this is the spot we were talking about. That slide going around that corner, and there it is. You see mistakes already coming through. That's going to form the front pack here. And still with Nix, they're in the mix with that very front race. It's Hydra, Otak, and Default also up there in front, which I gotta say is nice to see after the mishap they had on map number 1.
Yeah, so far Hydra and Otak neck and neck, wheel to wheel. We also see Default who managed to get a good start going. Finally seems to be racing after his woes of race number 1. Currently sitting in P3, battling even for the lead with Otak at the end of lap number 1, coming into the identity mime, being one of these early guys made the mistake at the first part. Oh, bonk from Default, bonk from Hydra as well, it seems. From what I've seen, but yeah, Otak managing to make it through unscathed. Same for Nix, who moves up into P2 with that. Otak takes the lead, and Evon coming back up into second place just after the line has been crossed by Nixotica. Miquatro up into P3, currently Nix sitting into P4, and yeah, we saw the instance of that bonk. I think it was from Evon, where he actually bonked at a precise angle that sent him directly down to the ground, but he did not lose too much speed. But yeah, Hydra, unfortunately, from Montpellier Town player, has been one of the victims of the identity, the very first victim of the identity here on this 6-lapper.
And the spread here, looking all the way down to, let's say, 4th, maybe even 5th place, less than a second as the race at the front stays pretty narrow here. And you can see this group kind of forming behind Otak, who is gaining themselves piece by piece a good comfortable lead here up at the front. And Energize, actually even Solja, Wozile as well, all part of that group. And Fegli, the first that you can see that really has a far gap as well. So I think starting with Solja in 7th all the way up until the front, this is staying very close here on lap 2 as we head towards the identity. I'll be curious to see who might make a mistake. We saw a couple of them in the first lap, so let's head into the identity now.
Oh,
Players,
the leader,
Otak, that's
Wozile
a
as
big
well.
bonk, and that, oh my, that opens up a lot of possibilities here. Now you're seeing Evon out in front, Miquatro, Nixotica, and Solja all following through. And that group has stayed close, but there's one less member because Otak has dropped now down to 10th and 11th as they lose a ton of places.
Yeah, and that might be the cue for Evon to start and pick up the pace and maybe trying to pull a gap on the top 2 fight, because they're still relatively close. I mean, Miquatro, Solja, Nixotica, and Energize in the same shot, and they're still seeing Evon up into the distance that are still very much in contention. So they're still very much in contention for the lead. So yeah, Evon might be looking to actually think, hang on a minute, I'm currently leading the race thanks to mistakes. I might try to pick up the pace because I got some people behind me that are looking to make on the attack, and on the reactor whose part Miquatro does just that and takes the lead of the race. Another lead change here before the identity happens on lap number 3 with Nix currently still sitting in P3 as an independent adjudicator of sorts, waiting to pounce and waiting to take advantage of a mistake up front from the top 2.
Well, we've seen mistakes on a couple of laps. It's not out of the question, to say the least here. And as we are getting closer and closer to that identity for this 3rd lap, we're going to see who can run it clean and who might drop back. On the previous lap, we saw Otak fall from 1st to 11th on that lap. Heading into the identity here, it's clean from the first 2, from the second 2 as well. Energized there in 5th place, kind of leading or following up that final group. Heading into the final piece of that identity, it's clean from a lot of the drivers up front, and that maintains a separation of about 7/10 from 6th place all the way up until 1st. I think that's the first time we've seen the identity run very cleanly from the top players in this race. And heading into the second half of this race, there are still a lot of folks in contention for that top spot up front, but Miquatro good separation holding onto that lead for about a lap and a half.
Yeah, that separation that was aided by a pretty interesting line from Evon. I wonder if he thought that he might not have had enough speed to actually cross the identity the regular way without a booster, so he was forced to actually take the boosters on the left-hand side before jumping through the second part. Nixotica having clipped on the inside of the hole before the reactor boost part is going to be dropping all the way back down to the queue at P6, and we are currently witnessing also the return of Mime. After that mistake on lap number 1, he's able to get back up into the lead fight. He's currently sitting into P2, and he's reeling in little by little Mi Quattro. He's within a tenth of the Flying Fin right now as we're moving on to the identity. He's really mounting a last to first challenge right now. This is very much a really great comeback drive here from Mime on bolt holes. First jump through the identity on lap 4. That's really close. Razor thin margin at the top, and he manages to make it with a bit more speed compared to Mi Quattro. He manages to avoid bonking the side rail as well as the top of the holes. They are neck and neck to the line still. Mi Quattro having the lead, but Mime with the fastest lap, immediately beaten by Otak, a 118.415 for the Frenchman from Middle Esport, but Mime managing to get back up to the lead fight, and he's going to be taking very much that fight all the way to the final part, or maybe a little bit sooner at the exit of that little turnover loop. He manages to get up into the lead, but it's still very much not over. Mi Quattro not giving up without a fight.
Not at all, but what a fight it is for this top spot. Unbelievable that Mime has come all the way back. Well, sort of unbelievable, except that Mime's won 4 steps out of 7 already, so you know that the skill is there to be able to pull off a performance like this. But Mi Quattro now has to contend with Evon as well, who has slotted into second place. And that gap at one point was 0.02 of a second between Mime and Mi Quattro when that fight was raging up in front. But now Mime, coming from last place, has formulated a bit of a gap. And this is now a fight, I think, for second place between Mi Quattro and Evon, going towards the final identity, or not the final, but the penultimate identity here. That we've seen mistakes on laps in the past, so we'll see, as you said, Mime, the margins razor thin as they went full send on the identity last time around, but it's paid off for them. They have first place now, and looking at the back of the pack, it's looking like most players are coming through clean in that top 8 and keeping the separation to about a second and a half from 5th to 1st.
Yeah, and unfortunately, one of the early front runners in the first race who is having a bit of a rough time is Wosal, forced to take the safe way at the identity before the final lap is even currently being taken. Evon having dropped a little bit of pace compared to Mi Quattro, meanwhile at the front. Yeah, as I said, Wosal down to P13 after taking the safe way. 22 points for him. He might not really be able to get some big points going, but you can see a lot of low point scores from the first race are getting a really, really good performance in. Mime having only scored 6 points, Mi Quattro only 5 points. Energize and Exotica currently sitting in the top 8 with big points up for grabs for them. They're only sitting on 3 each, and yeah, currently again, Otak having had a really, really good return drive here on this second part of bolt holes. He's now looking at the potential second place as Mi Quattro and Evon are again wheel to wheel right now, and Mime has taken the advantage of that to kind of scamper off into the distance, 1.3 seconds ahead of that little group battle for P2, as we're going to be moving on to the identity for the final time here on bolt holes. First jump for Mime up front, manages to make it through clean. Same for Evon, Mi Quattro, and Otak. It seems as though Mime has got this under lockdown unless he makes a mistake at the final corner. It should be good enough for the player from Exaltitaro who wins! Oh no! He does not win! He gets the landing on the barrier as I say that. The caster's curse hits so hard, and that's going to be a sub 8 minute time at the end, gifting Evon the win for 1/10 of a second. Mime second, Mi Quattro and Otak third and fourth. I cannot believe what I just seen unfold in front of me.
Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Mime went from an early mistake, last place, went all the way to first, and then lost first place on the final 10 meters to the finish line, bonking and landing with a wheel on that sidewall. That is unbelievable, and Evon is going to be thrilled about getting those extra 3 points up front. But there it is, your top 8 for this one. Evon, Hydra, Otak, Solja, Cap, Mime, Mi Quattro, and Link there. Those are the overall standings as you see it shake up. What a finish to that map, and there is no shortage of drama both on the first map and this second one now at the finishes.
Yeah, indeed, and I did not expect to see a repeat of what we saw during the Grand League, where landing on landing on the right side barrier completely robbing the win of the leader on the final lap. But it did happen again. In the meantime, we're moving on to race number 3 of today, happening on Grasshopper. Kisla's second contribution to the Grand League map pack this year, and yeah, one that marked the return of the bumpers to the Trackmania Grand League mapping fold, as well as the introduction of cruise control, which has been fixed. This map has been updated slightly with a few cruise control revisions, but I'll talk about that a little bit later as we get into the race. But yeah, of course, this identity consisting of the series of bumper jumps over platforms, and we saw plenty of people going for the safe way instead of pulling the box slide that you can see here being pulled off on the map presentation screen. But yeah, many people tend to take the bumper head on and just drive the identity that way, not really bothering with the bug slide. We've seen a few players attempt the bug slide though midway through, which is ultimately the faster strat. But yeah, I wonder how it is going to be feeling for some of those players.
I was very curious about that as well. In a 6-lap format, that bug slide technique, not exactly the easiest to nail, and that could be a make or break at the end of a final lap where you're going to see very few players going for that unless they're really looking to clutch up a spot and they think they can do it by going for it. But that's something I think that was more reserved for the 2X, where players had more creative license to go for that. You won't see it all that often here, but I'll tell you, there have been players who have been going for it even on 6-lappers occasionally, and I'm curious to see whether they attempt that again here, because hey, it's a risk-reward loop there where it's really tough to pull off. But if you can do it consistently, you can build a huge lead if you use the speed that you get from it.
Yeah, indeed. Now, you briefly, were able to briefly see at the turn before the identity. The polls that were there in the previous weeks have been removed. That is because of the change of behavior on how the cruise control has worked with the new behavior, making the turn with the original turn with the poles a little bit of hit or miss when it comes to avoiding them and avoiding hitting into them. So these poles have been removed, making for one smooth turn and one smooth left-hander before the CP at the identity. We're already underway with race number 3. Currently, it is Evon leading the step with 50 points, Hydra second with 37, and 36 points for Otak. We're currently riding with the points leader, battling for the lead, as we are getting another round restart. Again, a mistake. A bit of an issue for someone. I think it seems to be Dofault who's having a few recurrent issues here. It seemed to have been gone in race 2, but race 3, the demons are coming back again. The technical demons, should I say, rather. But yeah, Dofault having a bit of a rough time here on this final step of the season.
Such a shame here for Dofault. You thought it might have been resolved there as we got into the second map after they had to DNF on Launchpad getting started for the day, but it appears as those issues are plaguing them once again here. So it's going to be an extended warm-up for the players, as I'm sure the admins in the background try to resolve the issue with Dofault and see if they can compete. But I would imagine after our experience on Launchpad, they're not going to get too many opportunities for a restart. If things don't look to be working, it might be a case, as we saw with that map, where we're just going to jump into things, and Dofault, unfortunately, might be left behind. And that's so gutting for their chances. It must be for their teammate, Snow, to watch that alongside them as well and see that they're struggling. It's really tough to watch.
Yeah, so it seems as though his issues have been resolved. We saw Dofault running a little bit on the map, so we're now back underway. Let's hope that we are underway properly this time. Whole shot from Equatro with an 8.150 at the very first checkpoint. It's still very much a close back, except for someone who's made a mistake just at the exit of the dirt part. I have not had the time to see whose ghost that was. Onto the plastic part right there with Dofault in the middle of the field. It was Mime who made the early mistake at the dirt part, and he's finding himself 1 second down at the top 8 needed for safety. So he's even a bit further down compared to the lead. Currently 1.2 seconds down on Evon, currently leading ahead of Otak, Hydra, getting left behind. So yeah, the top 2 already making a break for freedom at the end of lap 1 here.
It's looking pretty good, as you say, up front for Evon and Miquatro, or Otak rather, as we head towards the identity. And the group here still relatively close. No bug slides there for a lot of the top 7 or 8, just straight off of the bumpers. And that's what we expected from this 6-lap attempt here. Let's round the finish line and head into lap 2. The separation between the top 8 and actually top 10, I would say, all coming down to about a second. So it's remaining relatively close. This could be one where, compared to bolt holes previously, we might see it come down to the wire between a lot more players. But on board with Otak right now, you're getting a good look at that front group formulating. and Evon has just been absolutely crushing it this step so far. I think they've really been bolstered by that performance that they had on bolt holes and stealing that win at the very end. It looks like they're carrying that momentum right forward through here on this map as well.
Yeah, indeed. He's able to actually get back into the lead and managing to get a clean first run through the identity. Let's see if he's able to make it a clean 6 out of 6. It seems as though, yeah, the bug slide route is definitely not the favored route for the top 8 contenders. We've seen, apparently there were a couple of people that tried it, but unfortunately they did not actually manage to pull it through. Evon a bit of a teetering landing though, allowing Miquatro to reel him back in. Razi in P3 as Evon leads into lap 3, but he's got Miquatro now about 2/10 down. So yeah, definitely nothing over as we're already into lap number 3. But yeah, Wosal, Revo, Link, Fegli having made pretty significant mistakes are already out of contention for the top 8 placings. In the meantime, Mime, who's had an early mistake on lap number 1, is now just within 4/10 of getting back up into the juicy top 8 points. Remember, there is a big discrepancy between 8th and 9th. 15 for 8th, 5 points for 9th if you at the line. So those that's top 8 finish is definitely going to matter, especially for Mime, currently sitting on 28 points.
And we've seen Mime pull this routine on the very previous map, so I'm going to withhold my judgment until, I guess, the very end of the race. We saw a mistake come through there and ruin their chances of a first place finish. But, I mean, if you're Mime, you're pretty happy with the second place finish on these 6 lappers at this point as well, because they have a very comfortable lead in the overall standings. Meanwhile, at the front, it's 2/10 here, or rather, almost 5/10 now between Razi and Evon. So there's some separation forming as Evon again earning themselves a big lead. And the closest fight right now might be for, it looks like, second place, as Otak and Razi are racing one another on this 4th lap to try and chew away a little bit of space here. And again, this is another one of those maps where the execution is not going to burn you a lot of the time on other stages of the map. What happened to Evon there is the lead has been handed over.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt you, but unfortunately, yeah, there was a bit of a slowdown there at the exit of the plastic part for Evon, and so he will lose a lot of speed even to Mime, so he's dropping down to P7. Miquatro, having made a mistake at the end of lap number 3, has unfortunately been dropped down to P11. But yeah, Evon with that mistake down to P7. Now it's a battle for the lead, which is transpiring between Otak and Razi towards the end of lap number 4, both going for the identity on the safe route again, as Energize is right there with them. Razi managing to get a really close line through here. Otak a little bit all over the place, allowing Energize to sweep through into second position, and Razi inheriting a lead of around half a second, and with the fastest lap to boot, 1:00.651 for Razi. Energize and Otak in second and third. Snow P4. Evon currently battling for P5 with Cap. Mime battling with Nyx for P7. And yeah, they're having a bit of a buffer compared to Fegli in P8. He's 2 seconds down the road. But yeah, it's all kind of kicking off after that mistake from Evon. And Evon forced to respawn as well, messing up the jump on the platform. What was a really good start to the step with the first 2 map wins has completely unraveled. He's dropped down to P10, promoting Fegli up into the top 8 as well, with a 2-second buffer to Miquatro. That could be a big boon for the Team 300 player. And the other American in the standings, currently in Exotica, battling for P6 with Mime.
That battle is raging, and I can't believe the chain of mistakes that we've seen from Evon after driving so consistently and leading for a good chunk of the opening stages of this map. As you said, they've fallen down to 10th. Now 13th place, as I think another mistake has come through. But we'll stay with this front pack here, and there's a really tight race going on for second place right now between Energize and Otak, who are neck and neck with Razi leading out in front as we head into the final lap. It's going to be turn by turn, I think, the lead or the second place position exchanged between these 2 drivers. Right now, Otak hanging on to it by about a half a tenth as they go onto the plastic transition to the tarmac, with Razi still leading. Otak separating themselves a little bit there, now leading by a tenth, maybe a tenth and a half, going into the dirt, sweeping long dirt turn here down into the corner. These top 3 relatively close, but I don't think the identity is going to shake that up here, as there's also a race brewing as Snow trying to come up behind, but separation forming between all the drivers. The places on this final lap might be solidified going into the identity.
Yeah, we're moving on to the identity now with the final lap of the race. We're already on lap 6. Razi and Otak first and second, and Energize being left behind by Otak. But Otak was a little bit all over the place in the last time when we crossed it, but he manages to keep it through. Razi should be able to save this safeguard this one, and he will take the win here on Grasshopper ahead of Otak. Energize in third, Snow in fourth, Cap fifth, Mime sixth, Nyx in seventh, Miquatro in P8, just ahead of Fegli in P9, who got overtaken by Miquatro. Hydra in P10, Soldier 11, Link in P12, Dofal P13. No, Dofal has been forced to respawn, so it's going to be Wosile up into P13, Default down to P14, Evon P15 after his woes, and P16 for Revolution. We're already 3 races down, one more 6-lap race to go, one last opportunity to score points. And yeah, Evon has had a bit of a rough race there, but I think he should still be able to retain the lead despite that single point being awarded to... Oh no, that's a really wrong miscalculation there with Otak managing to retake the lead. I thought I was going to be able to do the calculation there, but no, did not come through.
Hey, caster math is always hard, and especially when you're having to calculate between about 16 players who are jumping positions a lot. We've seen quite a shakeup in the top positions in the leaderboard from round to round. So Otak, as you said, grabbing the lead there, and the storyline is getting spicier by the minute as we head, as you said, into the final 6-lapper. And now we are going to see this girder identity where players are going to be trying to play this consistently but maintain speed. And this is one of the more execution heavy ones where we really could see some separation start to form. When we were playing Grasshopper just now, it was very rare that players were making fatal mistakes on that one. But meanwhile, on this map, you may very well see a big shakeup going into the identity at the end of every lap.
Yeah, indeed. So, of course, your final 6-lapper taking place on Throttling Act by Banano, and as you say, very execution-heavy in terms of the identity, in a similar way to that of Bolt Holes. And yeah, I'm kind of expecting those the gaps towards the end of the race overall, not necessarily just into the top 8, but overall in the race might be on a similar level to that we saw on Bolt Holes throughout the season. Some people might have predicted that it might be more akin to Vertigo in terms of gaps, but I don't really see it that way. I'm more predicting that it's going to be a bit closer than Vertigo because, yeah, we all know how that map went. Anyways, moving on to the map with the perspective of Evon through the plastic wall right with the reactive boost. Then landing onto this plastic part, reset block to cancel the reactive boost. Out first, transfer jump, keep a low line here, keep it as low as possible. Then the identity, forced acceleration block through the beams. Make sure to get a really nice entry through the first beam, then the second beam here. Make sure to time your inputs correctly. If you stray a little bit out of your line, if you go a little bit too early or too late, then yeah, you will be falling off of the side of the girders. And make sure you have enough speed at the end of that second beam transfer to make the transfer jump through the ring CP and then back down to cross the start-finish line.
Yeah, that beam section is going to be one to watch, that is for sure. And we're about 5 seconds away from race time here as we get into this final 6-lap race. I'm very curious to see this battle between Evon and Otak up at the front, and Cap on 50 points as well going into this one. So Cap outperforming their ranking in the standings thus far as we head into the opening lap of this race. Right now on board with Evon, who's actually falling behind the pack by quite a bit there, and a front group meanwhile forming as far back as Cap, Rev, Miquacho. Oh, the place is shuffling around a ton here as we head into the quarter pipe wall ride. Long wall ride here, sweeping around that corner. Small jump, a little dirt patch onto the right-hand drift there, and a short freewheel section. We've seen longer freewheel sections in maps previously, but just a short one here on this map. And as you said, it's going to be all about the identity on this one, but look at the group up front right now. This is so tight, and if we see players fall off, all of a sudden you're going to see those standings change in a hurry.
Yeah, I mean, right now, always on lap 1, it's a toss-up to call out who is going to be having the most significant lead as we're moving on to the identity right now. Razi having the whole shot. We see already a few people falling off of the first girder, moving on to the second girder now. It's still going to be Otak. It's going to be Otak moving up into the lead at the expense of Razi, who drops down to second. Otak taking the lead at the end of lap number 1 with Razi in P2, Soldier and Miquacho battling for that second position alongside Razi. Link, Wosal, Cap, and Hydra complete the top 8. Hydra being left a little bit behind compared to Cap at the moment, but yeah, still sitting in the top 8, although he's got Mixotica soon going to be catching up with him. Currently sitting 9th around, 4 tenths down, 3 tenths down compared to Hydra. He had a good wall right section there, but not enough to actually catch up.
Not quite enough here, but this front group, I think, brought up in the rear by Cap, is going to be breaking away from the rest of the group a little bit. Hydra a second and a half behind that front group of 7 as we head into the plastic wall ride. The jump transitioning from plastic to tarmac over there, a little hop and skip over the pool, and then a quarter pipe jump. Got to keep this one very, very low and then time the drift well.
Ooh.
Oh, that's a big mistake from Cap, flying off of the CP, and that's going to break up the group a little bit up front as they go through the identity. It is clean for the top 5 6 drivers, I think. Hydra, Link, all coming through across the finish line. And Evon as well, slowly but surely trying to claw their way back towards that front group of 7.
Yeah, currently Evon's sitting in the top 8, around half a second ahead of Nyx. But yeah, that's a mistake from Cap is going to be costing him dearly, dropping him down to P14, 11 seconds down to the top 8. In the meantime, Otak's still leading, but he's up Miquatro, managing to catch him up slowly but surely after the wall right part. He's now within a tenth of a second. Look at this, 0.099, and he's continuing to reel in the French player from Lille Esport. Much better exit from the banked part compared to Miquatro. For Miquatro compared to Otak, sorry, he takes the lead before the Reactor Boost plastic wall ride, but Otak is right there with him, snapping at his heels. Vocile in P3 getting left behind, so yeah, we're seeing very much a 2-horse race at the top of the standings right now on the race. First girder section, really pretty much picture perfect for both Miquatro and Otak right here. Second girder, a bit more speed for Otak, who's going to go for a bit of a low line, maybe a bit higher compared to Miquatro, but he's got the overspeed and moves up into the lead into lap number 4.
Great job getting that fantastic exit on the second girder there from Otak, getting themselves the lead. But look at Miquatro clawing their way back turn by turn here, getting themselves back in the lead in the second half of the race here. And Wozile now 8/10 back. Not a factor right now in that race. It's just between Miquatro and Otak up first. And as we go into the plastic transition slide here, Miquatro has now opened up quite a lead. And the question is, we saw last lap Otak make up a huge amount of time on the identity. Is there a chance that we could see it again here? There are battles going on elsewhere as we look towards 4th, 5th, and 6th. Right now, Razi and Hydra battling away as Razi's actually going to overtake and move up into 4th place as we head into the identity, and the battle between Miquatro and Otak up front again, staying close. Again, Otak having better exit speed, and a crucial mistake there from Miquatro has handed Otak the lead heading into lap 5.
Yeah, and in the meantime, Mosa also having made a mistake on the identity, dropping down to P9 and even P10, promoting Mime back up into the top 8 after an early mistake. He was down into P12 to P13, and now Mime, thanks to the trials and tribulations of others, is now again in a position to score some vital points here this step. And yeah, Otak being gifted a completely comfortable 1.6 second lead over Razi with 2 laps to go here for this race, and Razi is going to be making the job even easier for Otak with that double bunk at the chicane, with that full stopping. That's going to be allowing Otak to continue in the lead. Now Evon has been promoted back up into 2nd place after that sluggish start on lap number 1. He's now back into contention for big points finishes, but Otak is still very much in the command of the race. Moving on to the identity here. First girder for Otak. That's a good entry from there. Nice control over the first beam. Second beam coming in. Managing to time the turn perfectly, getting enough speed for the jump through the ring CP, and he's going to be moving on to the final lap, in the lead by around 2 seconds, 1.8 seconds at the finish line for Otak versus Evon and Hydra right there in 3rd, battling with Evon for 2nd place.
I think that is the crucial race right now. As you said, Otak earning themselves a pretty big lead here, and there's a huge mistake from Evon as Hydra is going to snap up that 2nd place spot. Evon dropping as far as 4th, maybe even 5th if Mime is going to catch up. But Link too far away now, I think, to catch Hydra unless a crucial mistake comes through. So there are huge gaps between 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, and actually all of the players in the top 8. And even Nyx, who's trying to crack their way into the top 8, can't do it as they're almost 2 seconds behind. So as was predicted, GGeek, mistakes here on this map have opened up massive gaps. And Otak, I gotta say, their confidence on this identity on this track as they go through the final thing, I'm trying desperately not to casters curse them, as they go through the identity clean as ever. They do a great job, and Otak's command of the identity on this track has been really impressive as they take the win.
1:00.427, the fastest lap for Otak, who takes the clean sweep with Hydra in 2nd place, Mime back up into 3rd place, Miquatro 4th, Evon in P5, Link, Soldier, and Wosa completed top 8, Nyx finishing in P9, Razi P10, Revo and Energize in 11th and 12th, 13th place for Cap, who's going to be rallying the finish line now. 14th for Fegli, who's going to be going through the ring CP and then coming across the start-finish line. Snow finishing in P15 and P16 for Default. The 2 Velocity Plus competition drivers not faring too well, and Default having, even after his woes, it did not click at all for the Belgian. This is definitely the worst thing that could happen here when you're in contention for the final few spots in the TMGLC final as well. So yeah, definitely a nightmare step for Default. And now there are no opportunities to actually score bigger points for a baseline score. We're now moving on to the multiplier round on the 5th and final map, the brand new map for this week called Icy Snake, the second map from Rocket here in the Trackmania Grand League fall regular season, a map that we're going to be seeing in the playoffs as well on December 18th, and the only ice identity that we've seen so far this season, a series of U-turns, a series of ice slides U-turns, 2 to the left and 1 to the right, where you definitely need to get some a good timing of and a good angle on your ice slide, as you're able to see here, getting some pretty aggressive entry angle. This looks like Formula Drift right there, or like Trophée Andros, or like ice racing in general, but yeah. Definitely a pretty interesting map to get to the identity, and very much like Bolt Holes. I really love the way that Rocket has done a pretty good integrated map overall for only his second TMGL map. I'm pretty impressed.
Absolutely. This is a great map to finish off the collection that we've had over the course for Trackmania Grand League. And this, again, an identity that we're going to see a lot of runs made or broken. I think we did see that a little bit on Throttling Act, but we could see it even more here, because mistakes in execution can cost you an entire run. And I think that's always the case with identities where you can fully fall off the map. These identities that force a CP reset if you make even a small mistake, those are the ones that are going to really cost players runs. And Icy Snake is another one of those. But we could see some really risky attempts at maintaining speed through that identity, because we are 2x. The players are going to be going for big multipliers here. I'm curious to see who wants to take the biggest risk.
Yeah, and you can see Hydra trying to perform the identity here. First ice slide, it's very easy to pitch your car a little bit too aggressively or scrub up too much speed and lose the gear, which will automatically lose your grip and get you out of the ice slide, which you can see with this section, without any walls to actually guide you, could very well mean a direct respawn, because you're going to be falling off of the map. And then this final U-turn, you must avoid eclipse at all costs. Make sure to get on the lip there. Make sure to avoid getting on the lip of either the square hole or the round hole at the edge of the corner, to avoid getting your front end being grabbed by the edge of the track and being sent off in the wrong way. In the meantime, we're already underway with round number 1 out of 8 here on Icy Snake.
Well, let's get into this map here, starting off with round 1. As you said, a lot of the times on these first laps, we're going to see pretty tight separation between the pack, going as far down as even 15th and 16th place. A little water splash there onto an uphill tarmac section. Sweeping corner will take a jump as we transition onto dirt, and a long sweeping dirt turn here. Again, the pack staying very close heading into this jump to drift. And this is a unique block as well, no steering. As we head down towards that loop, you may see the odd mistake, but usually drivers are going to run that pretty clean. And this long sweeping dirt left-hander slowly setting us up for the identity as we approach it. But here again, I think that's an execution spot on the map, is that dirt turn where you have to ride the berm really high and get close to the wall. But here we go. This is the identity, where all the players are going to be trying to nail this execution, this front gap, 3/10 separating them from Mime up into first place to close out this opening lap. And the execution looking pretty good from most players. I think we saw a mistake or two in the back, but this top 5 staying relatively close to one another heading into lap 2.
Yeah, currently it's Link who managed to get the whole shot into lap number 1. Unfortunately for Wosao, missing the reactor boost turn, is going to be out of the running for the win on the very first round right here. It's currently Link with a 10th of a gap compared to Solja, leading the field. Hydra currently sitting in P3, a bit further down, 4/10 down compared to Hydra in P2, and Mime currently sitting in P4, having had a trouble-free first lap, and trouble-free identity as well. Evon having had a trouble-free identity, although a bit slow, dropping down to P7 after the first lap and a half, as we're going to be moving back up to the front fight between Link and Solja in first and second right now through the dirt section. Yeah, you can see we're transferring over to negative camber and then back to flat, and make sure to get a proper line and avoid contact with the wall. Unfortunately, Link, that exit was really not ideal, and he's going to be retiring from that round. Link is going to be out of the running, and it's going to be Solja all alone to try and get to the line. Is he going to be retiring, though? Is he going to go for bigger multipliers, or is he going to be taking to the line straight away? He actually messes up and going to be retiring, and Hydra takes to the line and scores 126 points for himself with a final time of 216.949. Hydra with a 107.244, the fastest lap so far.
And strategically, that makes a lot of sense. Hydra, I think, in a pretty solid spot standings-wise, and to earn themselves a guaranteed solid amount of points, I think is just trying to solidify their position near the top of the standings. So I think that's pretty smart there from Hydra. And meanwhile, we saw Link, I believe it was, maintaining the lead up there and deciding not to finish. So again, we're going to move into the next round here of this multiplier round. 7 spots remaining for players to earn multipliers, and there are still a lot of big point totals left on the board to be multiplied here. Right now at the front, it is very close between this top 5 drivers. Oh, actually far more than that. A whole whack of them within about 2/10 of one another on this first lap. Heading into the long sweeping dirt left-hander again here. Watch the execution on this dirt right-hander as they have to stay high on the berm. No wall touches there. The group still staying very close to one another, transitioning to the tarmac. And here we go onto the identity now. This group so tightly knit heading into this one. The ice turns. Oh, we have a slide off there as I wait to see who that was.
It was Evon.
I think I saw the Red Bull livery on the car, so Evon was the one to slide off. And meanwhile, the rest of the group slowly making their way across the finish line, transitioning to lap 2. Still anybody's race in that top 6.
Very much anybody's race, but yeah, unfortunately, Evon, through the first ice slide, lost the gear, it seems like, and has lost all speed and was midway and basically slid off of the track. And yeah, that completely ended his day here on round 2. In the meantime, it's Link versus Mime. Mime managing to get back to the fight for the lead of the round here versus Link. Mime with 65 points might be enticed to actually look at a 2x multiplier to try and secure that step and potentially end it early, because remember, we're in finalist situation. After a player wins a round, he's done for the day, so he might be looking at that, or he might actually just go for bigger multipliers like we've seen him go for before. In the meantime, Link, having done a pretty severe mistake at the exit of the dirt part, is going to be dropping down to P4 and even P5 as we see Miquacho, as we see Otak right there with them. Onto the identity now. Mime in front of Wozal and Energize. Miquacho going for a bit of a wider line. It's not going to pay off for him, I think. Mime still leading confidently. Energize moving up into P2. Moving on to the third and final corner, final U-turn. Is Mime going to retire? Yes, he's going to slide off, and it's going to be Wozal, and everybody retires at the end. Nobody wants to take that 2x. With all the bigger point scores is never are saying no, we do not want the 2x. We just want to be able to go for bigger multipliers. And so that's going to be the win for Snow, who scores 82 points at the end of that. And that might just be the kicker for him that will allow him to stay in P13 and avoid direct relegation.
That could be a crucial earning of a multiplier there for Snow. As you say, those bottom positions are very scary to be in, facing that automatic relegation to Trackmania Open Grand League. But we'll leave that aside for now as we head into the next of these 2x rounds. A lot of players, as you said, retiring there. There seems to be a solid amount of confidence on the identity on this track overall, with a lot of players feeling like they can earn a bigger multiplier heading into the later rounds. In the front here, it's actually Fegley in 7th place, who's forming up the back of the front pack. Those top 7 players now separating themselves a little bit on board with Miquacho. This group very, very tight on this opening lap here. Again, the long dirt left-hander here. So transitioning over to the dirt right side turn. I think there was a bump on the wall there, I believe, from Energize. Is going to drop them out of contention for this front pack as we head into the identity here. It's a lot of players, this top 5, trying to get their execution down pat on the first time through on this 2-lap. Looks pretty good for all players so far as they stay relatively close. Heading in, crossing the finish line, still 4, 5, even 6, well, maybe we'll say 5 players who are relatively close to the top there, heading into the final lap.
Yeah, indeed. We're moving on to the final lap with Soldier in the lead. Unfortunately for Fegley, he missed the reactor boost. He did the exact same thing as Wozal did a few rounds ago, and that's going to be promoting Link up into that P5 right now. He's a fair bit of a ways away compared to the lead 4, as Miquacho completely messed up his wet tire section, and is completely out of the running with 59 points. Is going to be out of there. Mime bumps the pole, so that's going to be promoting Link up into P3. Soldier and Otak in P1 and P2. I'm feeling like they're definitely not going to be going for the win for this one and the next round, so that might be an opportunity for Link to just secure a 48-point finish right there and then, or if he feels like he can actually achieve a bit more, he might be retiring, and maybe we could see other players such as Cap and Wozal trying to go for that 2x multiplier finish. But yeah, we're just going to have to wait and see right now as we're moving on to the identity for the 2 leaders, Otak and Soldier, who's going to get the better ice slide. Otak with a bit better execution there on the first one. Second one, maybe a bit more speed for Soldier. Yeah, it does seem like a third and final U-turn. We're going to follow back on the perspective of Link. Is there going to be any retirements? Yes, both are retiring. Link is also going to be BMing. He's going to be retiring before the finish line. He's not going to take it. It's going to be Miquatro coming in through and taking this start-finish line, scoring 118 points for himself with a time of 223.622. Despite that mistake, thanks to the retirements of Otak, Solja, and Link, it is going to be Miquatro getting a pretty solid step for himself with 118 points.
Solid run from Miquatro. I'm curious though, GGeek, what do you think about that as far as the standings go? Because Miquatro, I think in 5th place going into this step in terms of standings. Do you feel like the 2x multiplier and the points that they've earned there are enough to solidify themselves in a spot and stay in the top 8?
I do believe that that it could be enough. I mean, he has a gap of only 160 points compared to Link, around 200 compared to Solja, as we saw in the live ranking right now. But yeah, it's definitely going to be coming down to the final 4 rounds to see if the players behind, if Link, if Dofalt, and such are going to be able to catch up. Well, Dofalt is definitely out of contention with his low point count, but Caf could be in for a shot at the TMGLC final if he wants to, if he manages to get by Link. So yeah, I feel like Miquatro is right there on the bubble, but he could still very much make it, as we're already pretty much done with lap number 1, as we were trying to see permutations overall in the lead in the rankings for the final spots in the finals. Otak in mine first and second. Evon missing up the corner. That's going to be him out of contention. Nix in P4 at the moment. In P3 at the moment, I should say. He clips a bit on the inside, though. Retirement from Mime. Razi clipping. Otak retiring. Energized moving up into P2. Solja with a really aggressive entry into the final U-turn. It's going to be Razi leading into lap number 2 ahead of Energized, Solja, and Nixondica.
And the race pretty tight here, I would say, between Solja and Energize, as you see Solja try to overtake on that reactor boost turn. Can't get it to stick, though, as Energize does stay out in front. Razi making a crucial mistake there, getting a bonk on the wall, leading into that downhill water dip. And now it's Solja trying to get themselves a lead out in front. That race pretty close up front here. Nixotica now racing against Energize. Those two staying very close with one another up front. Curious to see whether one or the other of them is trying to fish a bigger multiplier for themselves heading into the second half of lap 2. We're onto the dirt turn now. Separation pretty big as you look at 4th place, Wosile 1.88 seconds back. I don't think they're going to be contending for this one unless you see retirements up front. Right now, it is a battle in a matter of thousandths between Energize and Nixotica up at the front here. Nix dropping back a little bit as Energize grabs the lead into the identity. And these crucial corners here. See who maintains more speed heading into the final U-turn. Nixotica with slightly more speed. Can they keep the line tight? Heading towards the finish line. Oh, it's so close. Nix is going to retire, though. They're going to hand it off to Fegley, who actually gets the 2x multiplier. And Energize also opting not to take that one. Both players want to go for more in later rounds.
Yeah, especially Nix taking a bit of smart thinking there. He's like, no, I do not want to actually finish. We're now moving on to level 3. That could be a good chance to actually outscore a little bit more Snow. But as pointed out by the chat, they were actually doing a few permutations. It's still not enough to get 3x. He might even be having to actually shoot for 4x or even 5x. To actually get those. Actually, 5x is going to be the only thing that's going to be salvaging a potential spot in the promotion relegation match for Nixonica if he's able to make it. In the meantime, we're already getting started on round number 5 here on Icy Snake with a good start from Mosile, Energize, Evon, and Mine currently forming our top 4, with the top 5 being completed by Otak, who's being joined by Link and Nixotica, making this a top 7, regroup within 4 tenths, and a few tenths behind we find Solja, as unfortunately Energize completely messed up his no steer section, and he's going to be already out of the running, allowing Evon to take the lead.
I said you might see a mistake or two in that no steering section, and that's our first one there from Energize. But at the front of the pack here, a separation of about 2 tenths from Link up until the front spot. Evon, again, has missed out on that wall. And, oh, Link actually loses grip, turns too far, and they're going to lose a ton of positions up at the front here. And Mime now leading, heading into across the finish line. And they're on the best lap, obviously, for this race so far, the group. I think Otak, the only one close to them, as it's 6 tenths, almost 7 tenths back to Wosile in 3rd place. So it's a battle between Otak and Mime up front at the moment. But again, those are players you could potentially see retirements from at the end. Not sure. Oh, Mime, I think, made a mistake there. It's going to hand over the lead to Otak heading into the second half of the final lap.
Yeah, unfortunately, Mime was all over the shot after the dip into the water. That chicane proved to be a bit treacherous for Mime. So, yeah, that's going to be promoting Mosile up into P2. Mime dropping down to P4. And now Otak might be pondering, do I take the 249 or do I go for potentially a win on round 7 and get a little bit more out of that, because he might be in with a shot of actually retaking the lead and maybe winning the season overall if he manages to actually outscore Mime. He does need a little over 160 points to make it though, so he might be going for bigger multipliers if that is on his mind. Through the identity we go for Otak. First slide done, second slide done as well. Moving on to the final slide. Is he going to be retiring though? We're going to see from the perspective of Wasile, and yes, he's going to be sliding out. It's going to be Wasile taking to the line and thus securing himself 129 points with a time of 217.718.
Big points there for Wasile, who makes a great step towards solidifying their spot in the leaderboards here. As you see the standings shake up there, Wasile leading Hydra by 3 points. Mi Quattro currently in third, also having secured that 2x multiplier earlier on in the race. So now we head on to another of the 3x rounds here. And players remaining who are in the mix right now, we see Razi, Energize, Link, a lot of those players who are trying to fight for their spots in the top 8 rankings. We'll see how this race starts to shape up as we progress through this first lap. Obviously a very tight group here in about the top 7. Actually about top 6, I think, starting to form with Energize at the back of that group here. And Otak, again, as you saw, retiring on that previous one as they still try to find themselves more points. Heading into the loop, now the group staying relatively close. We might have to wait for the identity to see any big mistakes coming through here, but we are starting to see a little bit of separation. I think it's the top 6 who still have contention. 7th, Razi dropping down to about 6/10 back of the player in front of them.
Yeah, it's going to be definitely a showdown between Mime and Otak for the 4x and 5x multipliers, and both are going to be contending for the 5x, I'm pretty sure. But yeah, I'm predicting Otak will be retiring at the end of the next lap here on round number 6. Evon having taken the lead over Mime at the end of lap number 1 with a 109.448. At the end of lap number 1, it's going to be a Polish 1-2 with Mime sitting up into P2. Solja being a little bit further down in P3 with Energize and Razi joining Otak in a bit of a squabble for P4. And Cap, having made a huge mistake, is going to drop behind Nexotica in P8. Yeah, we already see a couple players that are way out of contention. Link, Nexotica, and Cap are well over the second gap compared to the leaders. And yeah, so far it's going to be Evon versus Mime, although I'm predicting Mime and Otak will be retiring, so it could be Evon versus Solja at the end, with Solja being the beneficiary.
Could very well be, but we're going to have to see here. We're closing in on the final stages of lap number 2 of this 3x round. Again, as you said, the Polish 1-2 up front, Solja right behind them, trying to gain a little bit of time, piece by piece, heading into this long dirt turn. And step by step, we're moving ourselves towards the identity here. As we head in, Evon again hits that chunk of the wall as they have so many times. Mime here leading on the identity with Solja close in tow. Razi as well, close behind Solja, heading into the final U-turn here. They're trying to get ahead. Oh, it's a spin out from Mime, and Razi snipes it at the end, getting enough speed on that U-turn to overtake Solja and get the 3x multiplier. What a move at the end.
Razi out of left field, scoring himself 147 points with that godly ice slide, managing to snipe Solja at the line, taking the provisional lead of the step, as we're going to be moving on to the final 2 rounds. The first, of course, is level 4, the 4x multiplier. The winner of this one gets to quadruple his score, and now we're going to see the bigger point scorers pull out all the stops. Otak, Evon, and Mime especially.
Absolutely. We're going to see these rounds are the ones that are really going to shape how the leaderboard is going to look at the end of the regular season here for Trackmania Grand League Challengers. And again, opening up this lap, the tight group, staying with one another. Nexotica right now sitting in 3rd place. As we said earlier, really, they're going to have to look for a 5x multiplier to give themselves a fair shot at being comfortable in those standings heading into the final stage of Challengers. Right now, they're sitting in 5th place. The standings shaking up a lot, though, in front, as Solja, Otak, and Mime are trading blows with one another right up at the front, and their cars separated by thousandths of a second as we head into the first attempt at the identity here. It's all players pretty close to one another. Through the first turn we go, looking pretty clean from all parties. Swinging around to the other side. That's a wide line from Nexotica, but they do manage to salvage that. Mime staying out in front through the U-turn. And Evon making nice moves on the identity there, up into 2nd place.
Yeah, unfortunately that was due to a mistake by Otak. The player from Lille Esport has clipped the edge of the second ice slide through the identity, so that he was actually in the battle for the lead versus Mime, so that's dropped him down to P3. He's now trying to fend off the threat of both Nexotica and Energize. In the meantime, Evon is the beneficiary of that, and now is chasing down Mime. Himself, he's having a pretty solid points haul right now, Evon, with 69 points, the nicest amount of points scored at the moment. And yeah, currently Mime still holding the lead by around 2/10, but Evon is slowly but surely catching him up through the loop section. And yeah, it could very well come down to a showdown at the identity at the end of round number 7 there for both Mime and Evon. Evon could be the best friend of Mime right there. He has nothing. He doesn't have any part to play in the fight for the lead for himself, but he can have a part to play for Otak if he's able to deny him. And Mime clips the edge of the first slide. Second slide is going to be Evon managing to make it through unscathed. Otak sitting in P2. He's going to try to let Evon take that 4x, and Evon is going to take to the finish line and score that 4x multiplier. And that is allowing him to score 276 points at the end of this two-lapper, if my calculations are correct. I'm just gonna have to wait and see. I think that's it. 276. Yeah, indeed. He takes the lead of the step. Now, final round. Mime versus Otak. Otak could be in with a shot of actually trying to retake the lead, but it might even be a bit of a left field kind of thing. Razi currently still sitting in the top 8, but he's just a few points ahead of Link, as we had a mistake from someone. Revolution is already out of the running. Dofald is out of the running as well. He's had a slow start, so he's going to be out of the race. In the meantime, it's going to be Energized Soldier, Otak, and Link in the top 4, with Mime in P5 and Nixotica in P6.
Nixotica holding down the back of this lead group here, off of the dirt into the tarmac, going into the jump to drift. And that no steer section caught a couple players off guard so far on this race. Actually, we did see a mistake there, as we see a shake-up in the standings. Nixotica still hanging on to 6th place here, behind Mime, Link, Energized, Otak. Nixotica actually in 5th now, heading into this long dirt turn. That group ahead of him staying very close to one another, heading to the first attempt of this identity. Let's see how the players fare going on to this ice slide. The Icy Snake, as it is the namesake of the track. Sweeping around here, good turns from all players up in front. The gaps staying relatively close here, heading to the U-turn. That's clean from all drivers there, leading up in front. Otak actually getting the fastest lap by leading after the first one, but Mime close behind, and wouldn't you know it, it's a battle between the top 2 here, heading into the final lap of the final attempt here in the regular season. Yeah, Soldier, one of the contenders for those final places in the Trackmania Grand League Challenger Finals, has already retired. 52 points for him. He will not be in the running for P7 or P8 overall this season. Otak still leading Mime by a couple of tenths, 2 to 3 tenths of a second. Nixotica a further few tenths down. Energizing P4. Kappa's retired with 54 points for himself. That's going to be the end of the run of the Team Uplum player. Then we see Energizing P4 a further 10th behind, just behind Nixotica, as we're going to be moving on to the identity very soon on this final round of the regular season here on Icy Snake by Rocket. Through the dirt we go. Make sure to keep the ground contact as much as possible. Maybe trying to carry a bit more speed with the outside line. Now the identity. First ice slide for Otak versus Mime. Both make it through clean. Onto the second ice slide. Who's going to get a bit more speed? It seems that the Otak's able to get a little bit better. Now who's going to get the better line through the final turn? Otak grazes the top of the apex, and he will take the round win ahead of Mime and score 415 points, the exact same amount of points that Aurel actually scored at the end. And he's going to be winning the regular season overall with 1990. Wow. Otak gets the 5x multiplier in a battle down to the finish. That's incredible. It was literally player versus player to decide who was going to take the win in the regular season. And Otak has got to be thrilled about that. Not only have they netted themselves a chunk of the prize pool for winning this step, but they've done it as well by regaining the lead and taking top spot over the regular season. What a finish. Yeah, 3rd step win of the season, by the way, for Otak. And yeah, that's going to be the big relief as well for Otak, who has been going for so much of these big multipliers throughout the season. It did pay off in the end, and he is rewarded with a solid season, solid beginner season. It's been very much the story of that season, Mime versus Otak, but yeah, in the end, it was Otak who prevailed at the end of the 8 weeks. And yeah, very, very good season. Of course, big congrats to Otak from Lille Esport for having scored the regular win, the overall win on the regular season. Mime 2nd place, Evon completes the podium in 3rd place, Hydra in P4, Wosal, Energize, Mi4, and Razi complete the top 8 and will be the partakers in the TMGLC final. And then from 9th through 13th, we find Link, Soldier, Cap, Dofalt, and Snow
who are going to be taking part into the TMGLC versus TMGLO final, although there is a bit of an addendum to that, as a little bit earlier during this afternoon, it has been announced, Cap announced himself that he will not be taking part in the relegation phase, so that will be the end, potentially, of Cap's run in the TMGLC, and of course, a bit of a, I of course want to still give a shout out to both Nick, Sodica, and Fegli, who have made the biggest effort that they could. Of course, they came in as the only non-European players in the field. They did their best to actually try to keep themselves alive. That wasn't meant to be. They're gonna have to actually, really fight back up into the OGL season next spring. But yeah, Nick Zodica especially trying to gun for those multipliers, trying to gun for a good season, trying to stay alive. It wasn't meant to be this year.
Not quite meant to be. As you say, though, great to see the representation coming through from those intercontinental battles. But I think the biggest shout out at the end of this step, personally, I think goes out to Razi, who jumped up, I believe it was 4 places in the standings with the multiplier that they earned for themselves, and snuck into that 8th spot to be able to participate in the finals. So I think a big congratulations going out to Razi for sniping that spot and giving themselves a crack at even a better performance for this Challenger season.
Yeah, so I want to, before we close it out and we do the usual closer, I want to apologize for all the issues that we had on the stream today. The connection was seeming to be a bit unstable. I mean, it's a bit of a regular theme myself, but although we had a pretty good run of trouble 3 streams, I mean, I'm kind of allowed to have one, but yeah, I'm really sorry for all the issues that have been played this year. I'm hoping that we're going to be able to make it better if I'm going to be able to cast the regular season next time around. But yeah, I hope you guys still enjoyed the regular season overall. And yeah, again, big congratulations to OTech. So before we close this out, if you want to promote your social media, Thunder, and maybe what you're up to next, the floor is yours.
Happy to. I think the main socials for me will be Twitter and Twitch. Twitch, a bit inactive at the moment as I'm taking a hiatus, a little bit break from streaming, but I have streamed Trackmania a lot in the past, and you can expect more from me for that in the future. Both Twitter and Twitch for me are Thunderbee is me, so you can follow me on both of those platforms. I would super appreciate it, and even more so, I really appreciate the opportunity to come on here and cast this final step. We got no shortage of excitement, and I've had a blast casting with you, GGeek, so thanks to the whole Trackmania team for having me. This has been a dream come true.
Well, I'm really happy to have been able to have you on board, and to have had every single people that have joined us, of course, this week over the course of the season on board. I want to, of course, thank you, and once again, I want to, of course, also thank Kaspa, Kaspa, who has been with me, as well as Lychee, Sleegy, Creedy, Fallen, Jake, or aka Janick, and SRK. You guys have been, without you, I feel like the duo casts, the rotation that we have had, would not turned out so well. So yeah, thank you very much for coming on to over the season. And yeah, that concludes the regular season of TMGLC. Of course, it's not over for tonight. We still have the top flight at 8 p.m. with a myriad of different casts, with the global stream held by Virtual, twitch.tv/Virtual. I'm going to be sending you over to him in a few minutes. But yeah, of course, French, English, and German POV casts. And quick exception, I'm supposed to be streaming on the McLaren Shadow channel for Kappa, but I will be exceptionally streaming on my channel, twitch.tv/TMGgeek. So I hope you'll be to see a lot of you there. It's a very rare occasion for me to be able to cast TMGL personally, and yeah, it's kind of a homecoming feeling. But yeah, that aside, yeah, I will also see you on Wednesday for the weekly show, hopefully. And we do have a few more stuff planned for the TMGLC Finals and TMGLC versus TMGLO relegation match, although that will be revealed in due time. I'm just going to be sending you over to Virtual right now, who's currently playing Cup of the Day, as it is that time of the day here on the Trackmania round. But of course, he's going to be casting the global POV of the final step of TMGL Fall. As for myself, I'll see you over on my own channel. Thank you very much again for watching the overall regular season of the Trackmania Grand League Challenger. And yeah, I'll see y'all next time. Godspeed, people!